Wellness team also on the live. And so if I can't answer your question, they will be right in there helping you out, popping links in and providing support. So pop your questions up, because if I can't get to it, certainly one of the team will. So there's no worries there. The other thing is I've got some really exciting news. So we have our whiz-bang amazing Cultured Keto cooking class series coming up, which is all about being in ketosis and fermenting to be in ketosis. And so for one lucky winner tonight, you will get a chance to win that for free. So listen up, how do you win an incredible cooking class series? So 8 sessions, a whole lot of free recipes, and also just the chance to learn so much more. So if you want to learn that, if you want to win that, you need to stay till the very end. So you got to listen to the whole thing. And also, I would love to hear some comments and some questions, and love to see you really, really engaging with this live. So just to recap, tonight is an awesome opportunity to win a cooking class. So one of my special cooking classes, which is which is an 8-part series. It's worth $247. And so for anyone who wants to win that, stay on, and also make sure you say hello and ask questions. Okay, so this tonight is the first live of 4 lives. So I'm super stoked to see you all, because we've got so much to talk about. The whole premise of me talking to you in this workshop is to really support you in understanding that it is really important to know that a ketogenic diet can really turn around your health condition. Oh, everyone's saying hello there. Hello. So a ketogenic diet has a wonderful way of flipping that inflammatory switch, or turning off that pain, or supporting you with your fatigue, and it can really turn your life around. So I really want to unpack that and show you how amazing a ketogenic diet is. But the other thing that I want to explain to you is how important cultured foods are in that whole ketogenic diet. And I also want to explain to you how important it is to understand the impact of your gut health. So I'm going to go over tonight, number 1, what is ketosis? What is being in ketosis? What are ketones? What's a ketogenic diet? Then number 2, I'm going to unpack how does our body become inflamed by a dysbiotic gut. So I'm going to break down what is leaky gut, or intestinal permeability, and I'm going to explain that when our gut is out of balance, we create toxins. We create these things called metabolites that flick on the inflammatory switch. So I'm going to explain all of that to you and break it down so you can really get those aha moments of, wow, that's happening to me. How do I solve it? And how do I fix it? So I really want you to learn out of this that a ketogenic diet, cultured foods, and understanding what's going on in your gut is really your secret weapon. Okay, so let's just kind of start with a little bit of housekeeping, because many of you may not have met me before, or the Cultured Wellness team, and many of you may be new to the Cultured Wellness community. So Cultured Wellness is an incredible company, and we're just absolutely focused on supporting people through education like this to be able to find optimal gut health and to be able to find optimal health and wellness, which is really, really exciting. So we are a company that's really dedicated to our community. And oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Did you see that? Someone popped their question up in there. And we're also dedicated to making sure that we can support our patients. So in our Cultured Wellness world, we have our naturopathy clinic, which is an online clinic. So we see patients all over the world. And within that naturopathy clinic, we have our practitioners, so nutritionists, naturopaths, and health coaches who support our patients and our clients to be able to go through their bloods and go through their gut tests, to go through treatment plans and protocols. So we have our online clinic. We also have the Culture Wellness coaches and our supplements and our whole sort of fermented food side of things, which includes our cookbooks and also includes all of our amazing recipes and how the how-tos of making fermented foods. But we also have this other arm, this other pillar, which I love so much, which is our education, which is where you sit tonight. And underneath that education pillar of Cultured Wellness is our cooking classes, which I will talk to you about later, these workshop series, and our real kind of mission-based focus of making sure that this latest up-to-date information is given to you in a really easy to understand way. So we've got the most incredible team. It's so cool. I'm so proud and so happy of Cultured Wellness. So I'm the founder of Cultured Wellness, for those of you who haven't met me before, and it's certainly the company that I never thought I would have and didn't really want to have, to be honest. It was only because of my own health condition and my own health journey, and my son Noah and my daughter Maya's health issues and their health condition. And so I kind of was catapulted into this space. So I come from a background of teaching, of academia and research, and I come from a background of business management. So my sort of first career was in business management and human resources. And then I moved into academia and studying honours and PhDs and research, and then teaching all over the world, teaching rock climbing and all sorts of crazy sports, and also teaching children in schools. So education is very much my passion. Now, during the time that I unfortunately was sick and then my son fell sick, I had to really also go back and study and upskill and learn about the gut microbiome. So I have also gone back and done further extra study in this area, and have been through, many sort of learning journeys about this space of the gut microbiome. So if you want to find out more about the big kind of story of Culture Wellness and where I've come from, then I have a podcast called Culturing Curiosity. And the very first episode 1, is a wonderful episode. And Nicole might even pop up a link to that now. And episode 1 really literally goes back to the start of when I was 2 years old and how I had my first, chronic episode of pain and inflammation, and then went through when I was 13 and I had viral encephalitis and was hospitalized, and went right through the journey of my son, my daughter, and I having to have fecal microbial transplants, which are gut transplants, on a research study in Canada. And my journey specifically on intense pain and all of the medications that I used to have to take, and how I kind of grappled with my gut health and chronic diarrhea, and how my beautiful son Noah went from being completely non-verbal and non-functional and diagnosed on the spectrum to having his gut transplant and finding out he had significant gut dysbiosis, and seeing by changing his gut and adding the Culture Wellness cultures in and changing his diet, I realized and started to see how amazing gut health was. And so when I say Culture Wellness is the company I never wanted to have, it's funny because it's when you see something firsthand and you know how amazing it is, you can't just pretend it's not there. And so my advocacy work in this area and my mission to educate is from a place deep inside my soul because of what we've been through. Okay, so there's lots of people chatting and talking, and it's so awesome to see you all there. And thank you. Yes, the podcast is so informative, so make sure that you have a look. Okay, so I've got my notes here because I do get a little bit excited and I have to refer to them. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm having a look at my notes. So tonight we're going to talk about inflammation, and holy smokes, like everyone is inflamed these days, it seems. And so we've got to curb it. We've got to do something about this, and we've got to reshape the way we look at it. And we've got to make sure that we are, really at the forefront of understanding. So for me, at my worst, I weighed well over 100 kilos. And I was on a pain train, like I would have 6 to 8 Nurophens a day, Panadol a day. I was constantly in pain, and it just reflected in how I felt, in my energy levels. And I had no idea about this stuff. So tonight, I'm going to be solving problems for you. I'm going to provide those aha moments. I'm going to be able to help you shape where to go from here once you know this information. So it's pretty cool stuff. All right, so let's get into ketosis. Let's start from the start. Now, ketosis is cool because it's not so new anymore. Like I have been practicing or eating a ketogenic diet and been in a ketogenic lifestyle for just over 10 years now. Can you believe that? And back when I first got into the ketogenic space, there was certainly no one talking about it. There wasn't, keto shakes. There weren't ads on social media talking about, keto and how amazing it is. And there certainly wasn't, it wasn't mainstream. Like I was watching the Australian Open in January, and I love my tennis, okay? So I was watching the Australian Open, and there is Michael Mosley doing an ad explaining how you can burn fat for fuel instead of glucose for fuel. And I was like, whoa, we're here. This is so exciting that it's hit the mainstream, that this concept of our body getting into ketosis is in the mainstream. And I was so stoked for people out in the world to be able to get this knowledge more readily. So when I started in the ketogenic space, it really was just utilized for seizures in that space of epilepsy. And that was about it. And it was used for cognitive function. It was starting to kind of move over into looking at inflammatory brain conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia. And I was really interested in it because my autoimmune condition that I have affects my brain. It affects my cognition. So I started kind of delving into the ketogenic space because I needed to flip off the inflammatory switch within my brain. So I started to learn about ketones and ketosis. And the premise of ketosis is that your body burns fat for fuel as opposed to burning glucose for fuel. So it is actually just really that simple. So when we eat carbohydrates, for example, pasta, fruits, breads, those sorts of things, or sugar, our body goes through this quite significant 11-step process to turn it from glucose in our bodies, in our cells, into energy. And it's actually a dirty fuel. It's too hard for our bodies to do that. And there's too much sort of byproducts that our body has to clean up. Our liver gets tired. There's so much going on for our body to handle. But when we burn fat for fuel, now that might be fat that we eat, like good quality fats like an avocado or some olive oil, or the fat that we store in our bodies. When we burn that fat for fuel, it's a very small process, and as in it only requires a few steps, so 3 steps in our cell, in our mitochondria, and it's a clean fuel. So we don't have all of these byproducts that our body has to mop up. So there's not these free radicals, it doesn't cause inflammation, and it's such a clean fuel. Okay, so let me show you this. I'm all about my diagrams, people. So I'm a visual learner, and I know that everyone learns in different ways because, remember, I'm a teacher and academic. So I want to be able to show you guys that there's multiple ways to learn this. So if you've got brain fog, which most people do when they come to listen to one of my lectures, then This is going to be really important for you to understand. So here we go. Our body can burn ketones. It's a 3-step process. And then we go through, this is our mitochondria here, this little bit here, which is inside your cell. So every cell in your body has a mitochondria. And inside that inside that cell is the mitochondria. So it's a very simple process. And out of that, we get our energy. So we make ATP out of this Krebs cycle here, the TCA cycle, and we make energy. It's really important, and I'll get to that in a minute of how that works. But I want you to see this. This is your takeaways, okay? Ketones only takes 3 steps to make awesome energy. Glucose takes 11 steps to make energy. It's a dirty fuel, and it also gives off a lot of free radicals, whereas ketones is a clean fuel, not as many free radicals, so we don't get as inflamed. So ketones create energy. It's not so much of that metabolic waste from the not from glycolysis. So it makes sure that we're burning a clean fuel. So it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer that we want to make energy from ketones. All right. So give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you guys get that, because it's absolutely vital that you understand that we're making ketones. All right. So let me hide this again so we get that. Okay. So the benefits of being in ketosis are awesome. So we get benefits such as mental clarity. So our brain is 60% fat, and we utilize those ketones to fuel our brain. And so the mental clarity is just amazing. It curbs food cravings. So when you're burning ketones, you're not thinking about carbohydrates all the time. It is impossible, absolutely impossible, to curb carbohydrate cravings, to like suddenly go, oh yeah, I'm just going to stop eating sugar today. It's impossible to do that unless you have ketones. It also helps with those epileptic seizures that we were talking about. It is a huge support in hormone health. So once again, give me another thumbs up if your hormones are all over the place, if you're perimenopausal, if you're menopausal, if you've got all of that going on. So it's going to be so supportive of your hormones. And the other thing is that it reduces inflammation in your body in so many ways, which I'm going to go into. So being in ketosis is awesome for inflammation. So many thumbs up. This is great. How am I going to choose which one of you is going to win the cooking class? Thank you. I'm loving all of this interaction. It's really just wonderful for me. So this is great. Okay, so ketones are not just for energy. Listen up. This is big. You need to follow me here. All right, listen up. So they are a signaling molecule. Ketones are a signaling molecule. So they support the anti-inflammatory pathways. So not all inflammation is bad, but when we have chronic inflammation and it keeps happening, that's when we need those ketones to turn off the inflammation. So the ketones are responsible for this controlling mechanism of this chronic inflammation. So there's one particular pathway that I love to talk about all the time. And this pathway is called the NRF2 pathway. Now, this pathway regulates antioxidants and detoxification and cellular function and inflammation. So we want to know about our NRF2 pathway. So when that NRF2 pathway is upregulated and it's happening and it's working for us, it downregulates inflammatory responses in our body. When that NRF2 pathway is downregulated, which is through diet and environment and lifestyle and lots of carbs and glucose, then those ketones aren't present. And then what happens is that those ketones aren't there and the NRF2 pathway isn't working. And then our body makes these inflammatory cytokines. And I'm going to get into that. And guess what? I've got another diagram, so you'll be stoked because you'll understand it. So it's like a light switch, right? When NRF2 is working, because there's heaps of ketones present, the light switch turns on, and there's heaps of anti-inflammatory cells in the body. Your body's doing heaps of detox. It's mopping up all those anti-inflammatories, and you're feeling awesome, and you're not inflamed. When that NRF2 pathway is downregulated, there's no ketones, the pathway's not working, and all these pro-inflammatory cells are released into the body. You've got back pain, your knees flare up, you blow up like a balloon, you've got all sorts of stomach issues going on, you've got brain fog. And many of you I know, you've introduced yourself on the Facebook group. Many of you I know have got autoimmune conditions. And that's when you see the autoimmune condition flare up. And yes, then you're on the steroids, and then you're on the antibiotics, and then you're on the anti-inflammatories, and you're on that medicated pain train. So ketones have the power to pull the lever, and which one are you going to choose? And of course, we all want to choose the anti-inflammatory option. Okay, so someone's just said exogenous ketones there. Go you. So I will talk about exogenous ketones, and I talk about that a lot in the cooking classes in the Culture Wellness program. So I'll get to that in a minute. So as I said before, I have been eating a ketogenic way for about 10 years now. And so I'm a huge believer in it, and it's been a massive game changer for me and my family. But what I've seen over the last 10 years is that, yes, it's been a game changer, but there's been a lot of myths about the ketogenic diet, and there has been a lot of misunderstanding. There's been a lot of like keto shakes and keto bars and all of this stuff, and it just makes me cross. So now is the section when I'm going to bust some keto myths, and I'm going to break it down for you, okay? So listen up. Keto is not bad for your gut microbiome. So there's a lot of talk out there that the ketogenic diet is restrictive, it's bad for your gut, it doesn't have any fiber in it, and so it doesn't support your gut microbiome or your microbial community. And that is not the case. And I'll get to that in a minute. There's also the myth that keto is just full of bacon and cheese. There's no vegetables, and it's inflammatory because the foods that you eat are inflammatory. And yes, I have seen people eat a ketogenic diet and they literally just eat bacon and eggs and cheese. And that is not a therapeutic ketogenic diet that we teach in our programs at Culture Wellness. That is an inflammatory diet that produces ketones, but it's not going to look after your body and heal your body. I've also seen that keto will make you lose your hair. I've seen that keto is way too strict, and there's no way that you could ever be able to stick with it. That's not possible. That's not true either. I've also heard that the ketogenic diet has no variety, it's got no nutrients, it's one color. I've really heard it all. Can you tell I'm a little bit over it? I've heard that it's just about shakes, and the list goes on. And thank you for all the people asking about vegan, vegetarian, all those sorts of stuff. I will get to you. Okay, so these myths are absolute nonsense. They reflect the fact that we have a community who has been guided by misinformation, not guided by the proper appropriate research and information, and also haven't been guided by practitioners that know what they're doing and that live a ketogenic diet themselves and lifestyle themselves. So it's really important to align with people that know what they're doing, practitioners that know what they're doing. And so you can understand that all of these myths and all of the stuff that we're talking about is absolutely not the case. Okay, so let me just... So Sam Cornett, you're so funny. So you've just said that I'm explaining it even better than Cindy O'Meara. So some of you might know that Cindy is one of my dearest friends, and we go hiking together. So if you look on my Instagram post, we only just went hiking about 3 weeks ago together. So I'll let you in on a secret. Cindy learned about the ketogenic diet from me because I taught her and her daughter how to be in ketosis to heal her daughter from significant issues because, she was really unwell. And so many years ago, I taught Cindy and her daughter all about the stuff I'm teaching you tonight, and her daughter got better. And then Cindy and I laugh about it all the time. So thank you, Sam. I hope I do explain it better than Cindy because, it's been wonderful information that I've been able to teach her. So that's a little bit of an inside goss story for you. Okay. Alrighty. We are 2 peas in a pod, Sam. That's for sure. Alrighty. So let's look at the gut inflammation. Oh, hang on. I've got one more myth I want to bust because I'm on my sort of high horse a little bit here. So let's keep going. The other thing I want to bust in the myths scene is that this food is keto and this food is not. It's not as simple as that. So it's about how your body takes on that food and if your body produces ketones eating that food or not. So I can eat a bar that says it's keto approved and it might actually kick me out of ketosis and I don't produce any ketones at all because it's still got dates in it or it's still got sugars in it. Whereas someone else who has a different metabolic flexibility can eat that and stay in ketosis. So it's not the food. So we've got to get away from this understanding that if it's written on the packet that it says keto, that you can eat that food and you'll be in ketosis. It's what your body and what your gut bacteria does with it is whether you stay in ketosis or not. And I'll teach you all about exogenous ketones and how you measure your ketones and what diet and all those kinds of things. I got that all covered for you in this workshop, alrighty? But I want to break down the basics. So the basics are we make those ketones and there's a lot of myths about it, but those ketones that we have in our body that we measure in our bloodstream are the ones that help us so much. All right, so let's look at the gut inflammation connection. How can your gut make you inflamed? How does that work? And what is inflammation? And is it good? Is it bad? What do we need? So inflammation, some inflammation we want. So there are 2 types of inflammation. There's chronic and there's also acute. So we want acute inflammation because like for me with all my sports and certainly my outdoor sports and especially all my netball, I have broken things, right? I have certainly broken things. I've torn ligaments. I've done all sorts. And especially this finger in netball, I've broken it that many times. And I want that acute inflammation. So my body releases inflammatory cells and cytokines, and they come around and wrap around the injury, they blow it up, they, make sure there's lots of fluid around it to protect it, and it goes about repairing it. It's exactly what we want to happen. That tapers off after some time and we get better. What we don't want happening is chronic inflammation that is, let's go this way, chronic inflammation where something happened, but then your body just stays inflamed forever and ever and ever at the same rate every day. So every day you're waking up with the same amount of pain. That's not what we want, and it's certainly not what we want to expect from our lives. So if you have an autoimmune condition, if you're in pain all the time, if you're on steroids, if you are constantly wrestling with inflammation and pain and all these sorts of things, expect more. Please expect more, because you shouldn't have to have that. So we want to make sure that our body is getting rid of that inflammation. So our bodies are constantly reacting to toxins and molds and what's going on inside our bodies, and they're constantly releasing these inflammatory cells. So let's go in and have a look at your gut. This is cool stuff. This is where I get really fired up. So your gut can either be your friend or it can be your foe. So I want to do a little poll now, which means you just write something. I don't have any special polls or anything. But what I'd love you to do is write up for me right now, do you believe that your gut is either your friend or is your gut your foe? So pop it up there. I want to see what you think, friend or foe. Now, for most of my life, my gut was my foe. It was horrible. It just released inflammation all day long. Diarrhea, bloating, constant either constipation, diarrhea, gas. Oh, the absolute shocker. So I love it. All of you are saying friend, which is awesome. But we want it to be our friend. But is it really your friend at the moment, or is it your foe? So when it's your foe, it's not working for you. It makes you feel terrible. Okay, so you can have the immediate inflammation. So like I was saying, the bloating, all that kind of stuff, or it can have this insidious stuff going on. Okay, so your gut can help you digest your food. Your gut can help you absorb nutrients. So you've got awesome shiny skin and your hair looks awesome. And, you're rocking it. You just feel awesome and you look awesome. You're really nutrient dense. Your gut can also help you to make your neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. So your mood is amazing when your gut is in balance, when your gut is your friend. You feel on top of the world and you just can't wait to wake up in the morning and get out into life. So your gut is your friend when you feel awesome every day, and be honest about it, whether you feel awesome or not. So your gut is your foe when you feel crap, when you're inflamed, when you have autoimmune conditions, when you've got things going on. And so our gut can become really, really leaky, and it can be compromised and cause all sorts of issues. So a leaky gut, are you ready? I've got a diagram. Here we go. I hope you can all see that. So let me just double check. Culture Wellness Girls, what's the verdict? Have we got more friends? Have we got more foes? Or as Nicole says there, are we aiming to be a friend, but we're sitting in the foe category? So I love how, Sarah, you say depends. That was definitely me. Depends if I'm stressed. Depends if I've eaten the right foods. Depends if I'm binge eating or not. All of these sorts of things. So thank you, everyone, for sharing, because it's really cool for me to see. Got to get down the bottom of all your responses here. Hang on. Let me go down to the bottom. Okay. So now here's the next diagram. This is a really important one. Here is our gut. Love our gut. It is so complex. It's like the seat of everything. It's the foundation of everything. On the left here, so my left, is a healthy gut microbiome. So what's happening is we've got all up the top here, and I'll post these in the Facebook group tomorrow so you can see them a lot clearer if you need to. So Candace, let's pop these up in the Facebook group so everyone can see them and print them out. But as you can see here up the top, we've got diverse gut microbes. So see all these ones up here, all these awesome gut microbes. Then we've got this whole mucus layer that needs to be really sticky and helps all of those microbes stick to that layer, that epithelial layer. Then we also have this tight junctions here on this epithelial layer. So you can follow my cursor here, all of these tight junctions. And this is where our gut microbiome protects us. And it's that intestinal barrier. So it's called the intestinal barrier that helps us to be able to let in amazing nutrients and helps us to be able to let in all of these incredible different types of nutrients, which is what we want. And then our immune system, which is all these guys down here, these are all the different immune cells. So our helper cells, T1, T2, T17, all these immune systems, our dendritic cells, and also our macrophages. So what happens is once our diverse gut microbiome is rocking and it's awesome and it's happening, then this all works. And so our immune system behaves, right? What happens when we have antibiotics, we have an infection, we have a stressful life, our diet's crap, we don't sleep, we don't get outside, we drink bad water. Listen to this one, people. We over-exercise and trash ourselves because we're trying to be fit and awesome and looking great. When we have all of these issues that we're not looking after our gut microbiome, then we come over here into this space of reduced diversity. And then we start to see the impaired barrier. So our intestinal barrier is impaired. And then suddenly these immune cells start to fire up and cause inflammation. I'm going to show you another one now, which is really awesome. Oh, let me get rid of this one. So this one's really cool too. So this is another great one for me to explain to you about these tight junctions and what intestinal permeability means. So we've gone through that we need all these amazing diverse microbes, but what they do is they impact the junctions that protect our bloodstream and this intestinal mucosa. So you can see here, this damage here. This is called leaky gut. It actually opens up, the junction opens up, and then suddenly we see big food molecules coming in and they go into our bloodstream. We start to see pathogens like parasites and fungi and bacteria and overgrowths coming in through all of this leaky gut and getting into our bloodstream. And then suddenly all of those immune cells react and cause that inflammatory response. So instead of having a healthy gut where we have lots of nutrients, we have all of this beautiful, food being digested within the gut, and we're protected by this mucosal layer and these cells, and we have all this beautiful villi here doing their job. Instead of that happening, we get leaky gut, it's compromised, we get food sensitivities, our body is constantly releasing antibodies. We can't absorb our nutrients because it just doesn't work properly. And all of this comes into our bloodstream. So you can see here in our bloodstream, we've got all these great anti-inflammatory immune cells in our bloodstream doing their job. In this one with the leaky gut, we've got all of these antibodies, we've got these pro-inflammatory immune cells, and our everything just feels like a mess. And so this gut health, when it comes to that lining of your gut, is just absolutely key. So let me go back over and just say these things again. What impacts your gut health and breaks down these junctions and causes this leaky gut and this intestinal permeability? Poor diet, carbohydrates, stress, sugar, not being out in nature, no sunlight, bad water, so drinking tap water and bad water, over exercising, and really just antibiotics, steroids will do this. So there's lots of you dear, beautiful, amazing people out there that are on steroids, but the steroids are causing this even more, which is then this horrible kind of perpetual cycle of staying in an inflammatory response because your gut microbiome can't get better. So we start to see that this leaky gut ends up being our foe. And so we're creating all this inflammation. So it's horrible, right? So we need to be able to fix this. Okay, so let me hide this. Okay. Okay, so let's get to it. So our gut can either create nutrients, can create those anti-inflammatory things like cytokines, and can support us to be able to mop up toxins and all of those kinds of things. Or our gut can be really, really toxic. So there's another cool thing that our gut does. Our gut microbiome, so the microbes within our gut, they produce metabolites. Now, this is another one. Think about metabolites. So we have incredible microbes within our gut, and so bifidobacterium, for example, or someone's just put up there lactobacillus. So there's amazing microbes within our gut, and that's why I'm so big on eating fermented foods and the cultured wellness cultures and fermented foods. And these guys live within our gut, and they create metabolites, which are basically like the compounds, they're byproducts of their survival. These microbes create these metabolites, and these metabolites are amazing. They create things like short-chain fatty acids, for example. Now, short-chain fatty acids turn into things like butyrate, and butyrate is how we make energy. So the butyrate is an acid that our gut makes from those metabolites. It goes into that cell, that mitochondria, and we make energy. So we feel awesome. We've got so much energy, and our body can heal and recover and feel amazing. That's just one metabolite that our gut creates when it's in balance from a diversity of microbes. But what can also happen is if we have viruses or fungi or bacteria or pathogens living in our gut, which I see in people's stool tests every single day, if we have those pathogens within our gut, let's choose Candida, for example, or let's choose a Streptococcus overgrowth, or maybe a Clostridium overgrowth, maybe it's Prevotella, for example. If we have any of those overgrowths and a dysbiotic gut, which means our gut is out of balance, if we have any of these things going on, then our gut will release inflammatory metabolites. So things like LPS or TMAO. And these inflammatory metabolites are then released from your gut, and that's when we start to see those inflammatory immune cells starting to be released in our gut from our immune system to try and manage the situation. But the problem is when our body's releasing all of those immune cells to combat those metabolites, we feel terrible. We feel inflamed. So everything hurts. Our nervous system is stimulated. We can't sleep. It's horrible. It's horrible, 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 horrible. So we want metabolites that are creating things like short-chain fatty acids, or a metabolite like GABA, which is like the brakes for our nervous system and makes us feel so calm and collected and makes us feel so good. We want to be making metabolites like serotonin, which is our feel-good, brain chemical that makes us feel joyful and happy. We also want our gut to be producing metabolites like beta-glucuronidase, which helps us with hormone function and balancing our hormones. We want our gut making these incredible, amazing metabolites. And the cool thing is that we can measure these for you. So we do hundreds and hundreds of tests at Cultured Wellness using specific testing that looks at not only the microbes that are living within your gut. So we look at, do you have bifido strains in your gut, and do you have lactobacillus strains in your gut? And we look at, are there parasites in your gut? The cool thing is that now there's metagenomic testing through a company that we use called Microbial, and we can actually see not only who's in there, but what are the metabolites that they're creating. And I tell you, there's nothing cooler than sitting down with someone and looking at what's going on for someone. And, we do a health history and they say, I've got Hashimoto's, or I've got rheumatoid arthritis, or, I'm really just dealing with this constant brain fog all the time. And I'm like, okay, let's get you a test, because my biggest mantra, and there's lots of you on here who know me very well, so you will know what I'm about to say, but it is test, don't guess. There is no point guessing what your gut microbiome is doing. You need to test it. So I can take someone's health history and then I can look at their gut and I can say, well, no wonder you've got an autoimmune condition. You have an overgrowth of Prevotella that is causing your arthritis. And so we can see this. We can give you answers. We can help you with that. So before you get all trigger happy and all excited, so thank you all the girls that are trying to, are putting up all the links here. Before you get all excited, when you come to work with us at Culture Wellness, we have a lot of programs that we can support you through understanding this, but also we can add the testing in and all of that sort of information into the programs and in all of the cool offers that we've got for you for this workshop. So make sure you have a look and order your tests and jump online and have a look at the programs and the classes and all this cool stuff that we can help you with to be able to combat this. Okay, so give me a thumbs up. Are you all over the fact that we know what the ketogenic diet does? We know that if our gut is leaky, we're feeling horrible and we are producing pro-inflammatory metabolites. So we're all over that. And we know that we want to move our gut from being our foe to our friend. And we also want to know what toxins that we're producing. So, yay. Awesome. You're on it. I must be nailing the 101 of gut microbiome. So that's cool. So we can test all this stuff. We can see if we're inflamed. We can see if our gut is leaking. Okay. So I'm going to show you something really, really cool. It's really simple, and I want you just to focus on this for a minute, because this is kind of like exactly what I've been trying to explain, but in a really simple way. So I'm bringing up another diagram. You ready? All right, here we go. Let's focus. This Prevotella is a microbe that creates a dysbiotic gut. Okay, so this is dysbiosis here. So this is the junctions that I was talking about. So this is that gut, and this Prevotella is horrible. It's creating this environment that's terrible. And then what happens is it's creating these metabolites that's activating these inflammatory T cells. So these inflammatory immune cells, especially this Th17. This Th17 is activated because this horrible infection that's living in the large intestine in your gut, it gets into the bloodstream and then it triggers an inflammatory arthritis. So when someone says to me, I have arthritis, I have Hashimoto's, I have all of these autoimmune conditions, when people say that to me, I say, oh, I feel for you, but why? Why do you have it? And then people sit back and go, well, I don't know. I'm on my medications. I'm doing what I can. But many people don't have the answer. They don't have the root cause. Therefore, they can't solve the problem. Therefore, they can't have an actionable steps of a treatment plan. And therefore, they can't get to a space of healing that condition. So unfortunately, what we see when people come to work with us is a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, so an inflammatory arthritic condition. And then the prognosis is you're just going to have to be on steroids or anti-inflammatories for the rest of your life. This is what you've got. There's no further investigation. Therefore, there's no hope. And therefore, there's no treatment plan. There's nothing that you can do to be able to manage your condition other than being on that pain train of medication. But when we understand this lens of knowing that we can find out who's causing the inflammation, we can work towards a balanced gut microbiome that produces anti-inflammatory cells, and we can get to the root cause of it, suddenly we've got actionable steps, we've got hope, we've got joy in our lives, we've got a reason to get up in the morning, and we feel stoked. We really feel stoked. So I couldn't find one, I'll put this away now because I really want to explain something to you. I couldn't find an awesome diagram like that one unless I made it myself, and maybe I will one day with the help of some crazy graphic designer. I couldn't find one for my condition. So let me lay this one out for you, because then it becomes really real, because it's it's me, it's my soul. So I have an autoimmune condition that I was just told that I had viral encephalitis. So when I was 13, my brain swelled up and I was hospitalized for a long time, and I just had a swelling of the brain, an inflammation of the brain. So from that, I actually couldn't read or write, and I couldn't walk for some time. And so I had to relearn these skills, which still baffles my mum that I studied a PhD and have, lectured and taught, been in academia and done all these things that I've done, because it is just kind of bizarre that my brain was so inflamed, I was pretty much non-functional. And so I had this condition and I was constantly inflamed. And the worst thing was that sort of at my worst, I would have weighed, well over 100 kilos, and I was just desperate to play my sports and play netball. And my body kept letting me down. So I would either have brain inflammation, so I couldn't actually think about catching the ball. My body would hurt too much. My knees would collapse. My ankles wouldn't work. And I just didn't get it. Then I would get sore throats all the time. And then I couldn't understand my condition. And then I started thinking, am I making this up? Like, why? No one can seem to tell me what's wrong with me. I've just been told I'm inflamed and I'm swollen and that I constantly get sore throats, but no one could actually tell me what was wrong. No one could explain to me what was wrong. So I'd take my anti-inflammatories, I'd play my sport, I'd love it, and then I'd crash for 3 days, and then I couldn't get better, and I just lived this horrible inflammatory life. Now, it wasn't until I was 39, which is a very long time, that I actually found out that this inflammatory condition in my brain that was causing all these inflammations came from a strep infection. Now, I had these strep infections and I had my tonsils cut out from those strep infections, but no one ever joined the dots. No one ever joined the dots to say this strep infection was causing this brain inflammation. So I have a condition called PANDAS, which is a autoimmune condition associated with streptococcus. It's a cognitive condition. And so if I had known back then, which is why I'm so passionate about talking to you guys and all the stuff that's happened and why culture wellness exists, if I had known back then that I have a streptococcus infection, and if I had known about fermented foods and medicinal herbs and the ketogenic diet, I wouldn't have had to have my, tonsils cut out. I wouldn't have had to be hospitalized with this massive episode, and I wouldn't have had all this pain and all of these mental health issues and all of these conditions and problems that I had. And so, it's my trajectory was I kind of found out finally when I was 39 that I had this condition, and how, and I'd been managing it for quite a long time since then anyway. So if anyone wants to know, I am 45. And so, but I have been managing and understanding this condition for about 10 years. And so I had a symptomatic diagnosis when I was, probably about 5 years before that. But I actually had to fly to the States to have the appropriate testing because I have such a rare autoimmune condition. So they couldn't test it in Australia back then. So I had my official diagnosis when I was 39. So who knows how I have survived this long and done all this crazy stuff with a brain that doesn't work and an immune system that just completely fought against me. So my son, which is why he needed the transplant, was because he had an infection in his gut called Clostridium difficile, which is life-threatening. But we were just told he had autism, which is why you need to go back and listen to my podcast, because I won't delve into it. But he was diagnosed with a condition and we were told he would never speak, he would never function, and he would never go to school, and he would never reach his milestones. And through sheer grit and determination and understanding and, reaching out for answers, and we literally had to send his stool off to the States, and we had to go against, the common rhetoric, and we had to kind of put our hand up and say, no, there's more to this. And when we did that, and when we, faced these challenges, and when we sought the answers, he didn't have this, condition. He had a Clostridium difficile infection, which is life-threatening. And the endotoxins, the metabolites from that infection that was living in his large intestine, instead of going into his knee like you saw in that diagram, all of those toxins were going into his brain. And they were actually stopping his brain from developing. And so that's why he couldn't talk, because the basal ganglia area part of his brain had completely shut down, which is how you learn to talk. That's why he couldn't socialize, because the basal ganglia area part of the brain is how we learn to socialize. And so once Noah had his transplant in Canada, he started to talk, and he started to function, and he started to develop, and he started to grow. Now, this didn't happen until he was about 5.5. He was pretty much non-functional from about 18 months old till about 5. And so he's got a lot of catching up to do, but holy smokes, he's a classic. Noah goes to normal school now. What school is normal? He gets C's, he passes his subjects. He's a character, can't shut him up. He's got stuff going on for sure. But we chat every day, and we have laughs, and he races mountain bikes, and he rock climbs with me and cruises on his skateboard, and he's an absolute, it's like living with Mr. Bean. I could write literally another whole book on the adventures of Noah because he's so funny. And yes, his brain didn't develop neurotypically, and I feel a little bit of grief and sadness around that. But also his brain has developed in a way that there's no one else like Noah, and he'll be amazing, and he'll be incredible, and he'll do something amazing. So I have I have peace with it now, which is really cool. Okay, so out of those, out of that situation, out of that story, that's how I developed the culture wellness programs that we teach now at Culture Wellness. And that's why I started our online clinic, is because I didn't have any answers. I didn't have any practitioners to work with. No one in Australia knew about the ketogenic diet back then. I had to seek professors overseas to ask questions. And, I was studying my PhD at Monash at the time in a completely different field. And I remember ringing, gut specialists all over the world, in Italy or Canada, and going, yes, I'm from Monash University. I wasn't going to tell them I was from the Department of Protected Area Spaces. I just asked them and questions. And then I, needed to, when I studied further study, I had to study overseas. There was just nothing here in Australia. And so, the Culture Wellness Clinic is set up for what wasn't available and what's still not available. And so that's why it's here. That's why I do what I do. So thank you for allowing me to share that story with you, because it's very personal to me, but it gives you, hopefully for some of you, hope, but it also gives you an understanding of, where this comes from. Okay. So let's tie all this together, and then I'm going to get to some of your questions, which is cool. Someone said here, we always say everyone needs a Jackson or a Noah in their lives. It's so true. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's tie it all together. We now know that the ketogenic diet, done the way we do at Culture Wellness, which is with a therapeutic understanding, utilizing food as medicine, and I will go into this in live number 2 and live number 3, and using cultured foods, which is the whole reason why I called this whole series Cultured Keto, right? Because you can't do a ketogenic diet without fermented foods, and you can't do a ketogenic diet without therapeutic foods and understanding how to do it. Don't stab around in the dark. Let us teach you and let us show you what to do. So we know that the ketogenic diet is the way forward, drops inflammation. The next thing that we know is that if your gut is leaky, you'll be inflamed. And so we need to look to our gut to solve this problem. So we need to understand what's going on in our gut. We know that we can test it. We know that we can find out those answers. We can solve these problems. We can move forward. We don't have to get stuck in the mire of it all. Let's just get on with it. So we know that if our lifestyle is full of crap food and poor sleep and no sunlight and no nature, and we're chugging down the alcohol every night, we will be inflamed and we'll screw up our guts. We know if our gut has pathogens in there, we know that we're going to be inflamed. So now we know that ketosis switches off that inflammatory switch, and we know that ketosis and that therapeutic ketogenic diet is the missing link for supporting us to be able to switch off that inflammatory switch and to heal. So you've got the right combination here. You've got everything all lined up. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to go back, and there are so many questions there. I don't even know where to start. So Elisa, could you please, or Candace, could you please maybe write a question for me that might be more of a combination or a theme of what people want to know as we're looking into this. So Candace or Elisa, can you please help us with this? So as Candace and Elisa are doing that, just to see if there's any themes or anything I need to touch on, someone said, would this help my husband with gout? Absolutely. Absolutely. So gout is an inflammatory condition. So why? Now, gout shows us that the kidneys aren't working effectively. And when the kidneys aren't working effectively, I'm always thinking about parasites, and I'm always thinking about worms. So parasites and worms. And so we need to obviously, support that dysbiotic gut, and then we need to support the kidneys through medicinal herbs. So we would test to understand what's going on, and then we would do the culture wellness cleanses, and we would move from there. Elisa, thank you so much. So glad you're there. Okay, here's a question. So Elisa's asked or helped me with that about, can kids do keto? Yes, they can. And I know this because Noah has been and Maya, my daughter, on and off, have been doing a ketogenic diet for, Noah's been about 8 years now. So, you might want to know, Noah's 14 now. So yes, they can. We do it very much under a supervised situation through our clinic and our practitioners, and we teach you how to do it. Kids make ketones so effectively. They're awesome at it. And so we need to monitor that to make sure they're not too deep into ketosis, and that they're getting enough vegetables, enough carbohydrates. But absolutely, kids can do it. We have many, many families on culture wellness programs that we look after every day that are in ketosis, and they're doing wonderfully. Okay. So there was another great question about healing the mucosal layer. So the mucosal layer is that, those tight junctions. And when they get really wide, that's when we need to look at healing it up and making it sticky again. And so fermented foods is a great place to start. Bone broth is a really great place to start, because bone broth has amino acids of glycine and proline, which literally help to plug the holes in that leaky gut. Obviously, you're going to reduce your stress. You're going to eat a beautiful ketogenic therapeutic diet that we can teach you how to do. And you're also going to make sure you sleep and you get lots of nature and sunshine. I cannot stress enough, the lifestyle factors weigh just as heavily as what you eat. So you can't out-eat, or you can't organic up enough a diet if you're still in front of your screens at 12 o'clock at night. If you're still on the couch drinking a glass of red, binge watching Netflix and not going to sleep. So we've got to face up and be honest about what we're doing and how we're spending our time. And if you're, watching your phones, all of those kinds of things. Okay, so great question about cholesterol there. So I will get to that in another live. So hold tight and join me in the future lives for that one, because it's really important. Because one of those myths, I should have put it in there as one of those myths. One of the greatest myths is that the ketogenic diet's going to escalate your cholesterol. You're going to get a heart, artery problems, and you're going to have a heart attack. I see the opposite in our clinic of people's triglycerides going down and their cholesterol balancing out after some time, but also their good cholesterol increasing, which is what we want to do. Okay, I will discuss in the next lives about vegan, vegetarian, and all of the different types of diets. So I will get into that. So stay tuned for that. And I will also get into the different types of dysbiosis. So yes, worms, and all the different types of infections, because lots of people have been putting up about parasites and worms, and we've got to talk about that because it's so important. Okay, so thank you, everyone. This is so cool. I don't want to take up too much more of your time unless you want me to stay on for a little bit longer and keep answering questions and keep talking. I'll just keep going. So anyway, question there, how can we watch this from the start? So this will be, the replay will be put up on the Facebook group. And if you're joining in YouTube, the replay will be sent out to you via email, but it will also be put up as a replay in YouTube. So you will get lots and lots and lots of opportunities to watch the replay. When you're watching the replay, if you have questions, please pop them up on the Facebook group or in the YouTube page, and we can answer them for you. Our beautiful prackies, Gabby and Elisa, will be doing a live on Friday, and they will collate a lot of the questions that you've been asking and put them into some themes. And so they'll be able to help you with that as well. So we will get to your questions. We will make sure that we answer everything. We've got 10 days together, so we're going to get through it. Okay, so a few extra housekeeping things. I just really want to help everyone to understand how we can help you, because now you're probably a bit like, whoa, this is so much information. How can I kind of work this out? How can I help you? So let me go through at Cultured Wellness how we support our clients and our patients. So we can help you anywhere from teaching you how to ferment, doing cooking classes, we've got our recipe books, and we've got obviously our Cultured Wellness coaches. So we can just kind of like help you to ease on in and learn about diet and lifestyle choices and fermenting. So it's a great place to start. So tonight I would highly recommend that you join the Cultured Wellness ketosis cooking classes. They're so awesome, and you get to learn so much about how to ferment. I teach you a lot about exogenous ketones, how to test your ketones. I teach you about, is it too many carbs? Is it not enough carbs? You know, how do I stay in ketosis? So the cooking classes aren't just about me teaching you about how to make a recipe. The cooking classes are very much about the nutrients in the food and how that supports your body and about being in ketosis and those ferments. So I highly, highly recommend you absolutely start with the cooking classes. So Nicole or someone might pop up a link. So you can start there, right? We also have our Cultured Wellness programs. So during this 10-day workshop, I will be opening up my books to work with only 12 people. I'm sorry, it's all I've got space for. So if you want to work specifically with me, so if your family's got Pandas condition, if you've got autoimmune condition, if you've got tricky stuff going on, I'm your girl. So I have a space for 12 people. So if you want to work with me and join a Cultured Wellness one-on-one program, which is extremely tailored, then there's probably a link coming up for that one too. 12 spots. So they normally fill up by about the first or second live. So if it's something that you want to look into, start looking over it tonight, book a discovery call if you need to, and just learn a little bit more about it. But also just jump in and grab it, because I'll have 12 spots and then I won't have any more spots. Now, Elisa is also opening up, which is very exciting. She's the most amazing health coach. I love Elisa so much. She's opening up around about 15 spots. So if you then want to work with Elisa, which she's awesome at implementing everything. She specializes in EMFs and environmental toxins. She specializes in supporting mums to know what the hell to pack in lunch boxes if we're going to get our kids into ketosis. And she specializes in the pantry overhaul and helping mums just to get organized, right? And detailed instructions. So Elisa is absolutely your girl when it comes to, you know, having your back with that information. 15 spots, and they will fill up. So have a look at that. And then also we've got our awesome Kickstarter program and our testing options. So there's also that too. So you can get your microbial test, You can, organize a consult, and you can also do our Kickstarter program, which teaches you all about what you need to do to get into ketosis, the environmental, lifestyle choices, detoxing, and gets you ready to do the culture wellness cleanses with all of our medicinal herbs. So there are so many ways that we can help you and that we can engage with you. So have a think about, what do I need, and really sit with that and think about, okay, I've got chronic stuff going on and I need Kirsty. So you need to work with me on our tailored one-on-one program. Or maybe it's like, I just need to start on a cooking class here. And so you can start on the cooking class and get all that cool information, and I can, be right there to do some lives and guide you through it. So there's so much information that you can do or have. The other thing is, if you're not sure, obviously keep watching the lives, that's fine. But also you can book a discovery call with either myself or Elisa, or with Jade, one of our incredible naturopaths at Culture Wellness. So lots and lots of opportunities to engage with us, and lots of opportunities to work with us and learn from us. So we have been doing this for a long time, and we know what is needed for you guys to get your problems solved. And we know what your actionable steps are that you need to, to get out there and get well. So everyone, this has been so cool, so cool. So coming up, we're going to be talking about pain. I love talking about pain. So we're going to unpack what foods cause pain, what foods don't, what do I eat in a day, to stay in ketosis. Well, I'm going to talk a lot about all of these kind of, what does it mean to be vegan, all of these things that you guys are putting up. And your questions have been so amazing that I'll probably have to jump on tomorrow and do another quick live to unpack some of your questions. So don't be surprised if you see me quickly tomorrow with some more information, which will be really, really cool. But apart from that, just make the most of this workshop and make the most of the fact that we can help you and that we're here for you and that we can support you. And I really, really, really look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. And if you have any more questions, just sing out, and we're here for you. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.